Good morning. Welcome. My name is Lisa Smith. I'm the Executive Director of Enterprise for Equity. I just want to welcome you all today. This is our training room, and we're honored to have you here. So I'd like to begin by doing an introduction of our panel discussion today. Why don't we start with you, and then Kenya, and then we'll go to John, and then myself. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Pettit. I'm the Farmer Veteran Coalition Program Director. I've been with FVC for about 5 years. We're a nationwide nonprofit that supports military veterans pursuing new careers in agriculture. We're based in Davis, California, but we work nationwide in all 50 states and U.S. territories.
Thank you. And how about you, Kenya?
I am Kenya Timmons Robley, co-owner of Grace Condiments with my husband, Josh. I am an Army veteran. I started with E4E and started out with my first sauce, and now I've expanded to 3 more recipes, and
Great.
that's why I'm here.
Great. And then how about you?
So my name is John Adams. My company name is Sound Fresh Clams and Oysters. We're a family, total families engaged. My parents, my wife, my kids, my nieces. We sell out of the farmers market here in Olympia. And did I answer all those questions?
Great. Our hope for this morning is to just open your eyes and your perspectives around the Farmer Veteran Coalition and the Fellowship Grant Program. Introduce you to a couple of veteran entrepreneurs who've both applied and received a fellowship grant, but also just graduated from a business planning program and is an aspiring applicant. And then I'll talk just a few things that you want to think about when you write a business plan. So we'll just go over a few points there for you. I hope that makes sense. All right, so you heard from me. I'd like to introduce Rachel Pettit. Is that, am I pronouncing your name right? And why don't you go ahead with the introduction of the grant?
Great. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm really impressed with our introductions. We have such diversity and knowledge in the room, so thank you for coming here this morning, braving the snow. I am up here from San Diego. I've worked for the Farmer Veteran Coalition for the last 5 years as the Fellowship Fund Manager, and I'm here to talk to you about the application and also just about some of our other programs. We have Homegrown by Heroes. That's our marketing brand. It's free for veterans, as are all of our services. So anyone that is a 50% veteran owner in a business can apply to have this brand, and it helps consumers differentiate your product on the shelf. So if someone's in the farmer's market and they're deciding between these tomatoes and those tomatoes, they may be able to recognize the Homegrown by Heroes brand and choose to support the veteran-produced product. So that's a great program to be involved in. So it's a free program, and we send digital copies of the logo, or you can buy the stickers at cost. And like she's showing, you can put it on your business cards, on your banners at the farmer's market stand. We have it on egg cartons and meat packages, CSA boxes, all kinds of things. So yeah, the fellowship program was started in 2011, and we've given out more than $2 million through that program to about 300 recipients. It opens once a year. It's a competitive application that opens every winter. So this year for 2020, it will be opening February 3rd and will remain open for about a month, closing March 6th. So you have about a month to fill it out. The application takes around 2 hours, we ask, for you to devote to fill out the application. There's a few documents that you can gather ahead of time before you sit down to fill out the application, and those are your proof of service, so a DD-214, or a letter of support from a commanding officer if someone is still active duty. I encourage you to visit our website. It's farmvetco.org, and you can read about a lot of the programs, including Homegrown by Heroes, our upcoming conferences. We have workshops and webinars all over the country throughout the year, and we have one big annual conference around Veterans Day every November. Last year we were in Austin, Texas, and this year we'll be in Atlanta, Georgia, so that moves around the country. We haven't been to Washington yet, but maybe in the next few years. Yes, yeah. We have different state events too. Jason could talk to you more about the Washington specific events, but we're gearing up for this California conference, which will be next month. And webinars that you can tune into remotely. Those are all advertised on here. Another great part of our website, probably my favorite part of the website, are these stories. So this is something that previous fellowship recipients participate in. We often highlight by taking photos on the farm of veterans doing their farm tasks and using the fellowship equipment that they were granted, and it creates this whole catalog of really amazing stories. Like LaDonna and Heather are two twin sisters that are both veterans, and they farmed together on an orchard in Oregon, and they just have a very compelling story. So we sent our communications director there to their orchard and photographed them and took audio interviews and created this really great story, and we've got just a lot of them on here. And 2020 fellowship recipients will also have the opportunity to be featured on here. As you can see, we've got people doing all kinds of different agriculture in lots of different climates. So for the fellowship on February 3rd when it opens, the announcement will be made here on our website, also on our electronic newsletter, which goes out about once a month, and we'll have a special email going out with the link. Also on our Facebook page and our Instagram and our Twitter. The application will be really easy to find February 3rd. It sounds like from your introductions, everyone in this room is eligible to apply. You have to be a veteran or currently serving. You have to be a member of FVC, so if anyone in the room isn't yet, it's free. It's a pretty quick application, and you can join there on our website. You have to have an honorable discharge, although other characters will be accepted on a case-by-case basis, and there's a section to explain that. You must have an agricultural business in operation and submit a business plan, so we'll get more into that. That's what this whole workshop is here to assist you with that part of it. You must be willing to fully participate in the program, and that includes filling out a survey report that will be emailed to recipients 6 to 12 months after. And it basically is a way for us to track what the impact of that equipment was on your farm. And you may be asked to be a mentor for another veteran. So a lot of what FVC does is connect experienced farmer veterans with beginning farmer veterans. So those in the room that are in their first few years, they could ask for a mentor, and we would connect you with someone, whether it's someone in your community or if you'd prefer someone far away. You could, see what your business idea looks like in another part of the country. Whatever you're looking for in a mentor-mentee relationship, we've done a lot of that type of connecting. And the best place we start is with our fellowship, our pool of fellowship recipients. The program works when applicants are approved to buy a piece of equipment. The money is sent directly to the vendor. So if you're buying a walk-behind tractor, you'd submit an invoice to us for maybe the Earth Tools BCS walk-behind tractor. FVC would send a check directly to that vendor, and you would get the piece of equipment mailed to you, or you would pick it up from the vendor. So money isn't given directly to the awardees. So all of that is explained on the first page. I'm just going to quickly walk you through this because it's pretty self-explanatory, but you'll see that the application continues as the fields are filled out because they are required. For the field dates, you'll follow the help text on there, doing the 2-digit, 2-digit, 4-digit. And it will ask a few questions about your military service. Again, the field dates are important. If someone is still serving, the date of separation would be today's date. I'm just gonna choose a random file here because it's a required field, but this is where you'd add your proof of service. A little info about deployments. These text boxes have a approximately 5-sentence character limit, so we're not looking for a huge amount of information, but just something briefly to address the question. So you have to say yes, you're involved in agriculture. business name. A business website or Facebook page is not required, but we do encourage it just because it's a really helpful thing to have for your business. And last year's sales total is also really important. So that's, any sales that you made from your farm products during 2019. If you haven't had any sales, you can put 0. Here's a brief overview of your business and how it's being financed. If you have off-farm income, if you have a disability payment, if you're financing the farm through sales from the business itself. You're going to say whether you're certified organic or sustainable, no-till, conventional, number of acres. We also have a program with Oregon Tilth and CCOF to waive a good part of the certification fee to get certified organic, and that's available to any of our members. So if someone was interested in transitioning to organic, definitely talk to us about that. Let's see, this part is pretty important. Whether you own a tractor or not, doesn't matter so much, but you want to put the details in here because our Geared to Give program with Kubota is wrapped into this fellowship application. So every year, Kubota donates 5 tractors from their L series, which is a compact, pretty small tractor, and awardees for those 5 tractors are chosen from the pool of applicants that fill out this application. So it's okay if you already have a tractor or if you don't, but you would describe what the conditions of your tractor are, or if you don't have a tractor, what you're looking for in a tractor. The tractor that Kubota gives is about 28 horsepower, so it's good for a specific type of operation. And for the 2020 fellowship, we are not inviting previous fellowship awardees to reapply. Tractor Supply gift certificate awardees are still invited to. The folks that were not awarded a fellowship but got a $1,000 gift card can still apply. So you have to say no there. And we're asking about long-term and short-term goals of your business here for the next 12 months and for 3 to 5 years and beyond. And then finally, the very last section, you're going to explain what you would purchase with your $5,000 fellowship. So we're really looking for one piece of tangible equipment here. It's better to have a pretty concise idea of what you're going to purchase rather than a longer list of items or multiple things. You want it to be about a $5,000 max. It can be less than that. It could be a little bit more than that, but you would be willing to pay the balance. Anything over $5,000 you would pay the difference of. We do the evaluating. Our advisory committee reviews the applications for fellowship, $5,000 fellowships, and for the tractors at the same time to make sure that no one gets either, both, or that someone that should get one doesn't get neither, if that makes sense. So, we try to avoid someone getting both in 1 year.
Well, while we're on this page, can I add something?
Yeah.
So like Lisa mentioned earlier, I'm an E4E graduate, 2016, I believe. Could have been 2017. I was a FEC fellowship recipient for 2017. And so one of the components of the E4E program is you actually build your business plan. But in addition to that, could you scroll up like maybe just 2 blocks? All of these components, your short-term goals, your long-term goals, your background, your story, what key components of capital investment do you need, are all identified in the construction of your business plan. And so that's the unique reason why E4E and FEC are partnered to bring you this workshop, is that in the construct and in the execution of the business planning program, you already have all of this in Word somewhere. And so now you're just copying and pasting. And it saves this 2-hour process, can actually get minimized down to what's coming up next, into just authoring these 3 essay questions. And so it's really slick how these 2 processes dovetail.
So I'm just going to go over the mechanics really quick, and we're almost done with that part, and then we can really get into the business plan, and the essay questions are really the meat of the application, other than filling out these fields, which is very simple. You want to have this business plan that has all of these things already laid out with your goals and your markets and projected sales. And it is really best to already have that document somewhere else for all the other reasons that you need a business plan to manage your business, and then just to be copy and pasting it into this sheet. as you go, especially so you don't lose any information. So this final part, there's these 3 sections that you'll have uploaded a document, your proof of service, your business plan, and this is the 3rd part. We actually have changed it. I have to update this, but we're reducing the amount of prompt and writing required because it was difficult. So instead of 3 prompts with a requirement of 1 to 3 pages, it will be condensed to 1 prompt with a requirement of 1 paragraph to a maximum of 1 page. So it's not a huge prompt, but it's a way to get to know you and your business and your experience and your goals outside of just an application form. And it is a really important part of it. And usually it's not too hard to write because you have a lot to say. This is usually something that people are passionate about. So that's the very last part. Confirm you're not a robot. And you should get a confirmation on the next page. That gives you one more chance to review your answers if you want to make any corrections. It may require a correction. All the little red asterisks are required fields, and it can be a little picky about the format for putting dates and dollar amounts and those kind of things. So the next screen's going to tell you what's wrong with the form, if anything, or submit it. So after that part, then you'll get a confirmation. There should be a screen that says, thank you for submitting your application, and you'll also get a confirmation email sent to the email address that you used in the application, so be sure that you've got those 2 things. If for some reason you didn't see the screen pop up and you didn't get the confirmation email, you can always call our office and we will confirm that we have your application. So.
Typically, how many folks apply, and then typically how many awards are there?
Yeah, it changes year to year. Every year we have an increase in applications. From some years to the next, it almost doubles. So it's becoming a much more competitive and popular program. But we spend the year fundraising for it, so we're trying to match the demand with more supply. Last year we had about 500 applicants, and we were able to give out about 160 awards. So this year we're anticipating more than 500 applicants and hopefully around 200 awards, something like that. So,
Great.
Yeah. Some of the most common purchases are the cold storage room, irrigation equipment, livestock, fencing. The walk-behind tractors are really popular for small operations or people that are doing no-till. Small greenhouses, high tunnels, hoop houses. We have drilled some wells in the past, depending on if you can get that done for $5,000. But I would say fencing is probably one of the most popular. But with fencing, we've had people spend, $3,000 of the $5,000 on fencing and $2,000 on the installation. A lot of people choose to do things themselves if possible, but you can't do everything, so you can.
I'm learning that.
Yeah, for sure.
Very hard.
Yeah, and we've had people that have matched up with veteran contractors or veteran suppliers too, and that's even better.
That's what I'm hoping is the networking from coming to those.
Yeah, exactly. And if that's something, once someone is awarded a fellowship, they can always contact us and say, like, this is what I'm looking for. Do you know a veteran-owned supplier of that? And we can try. It's not always possible, but we try hard. And on the stories page on our website, since so many of these people, so many of them got fellowships, so kind of what they're talking about is, this is what I got. John Darling with the really cute lamb. We got some of his animals for him. Adam Ingrau down here in Michigan, we purchased some of his first beehives, and now he teaches. He teaches some apiary classes at University of Michigan. So for other people, since the program's been around since 2011, we've had the chance to purchase someone's very first pair of bred heifers and had their whole herd expand from that first pair. So. It's exciting to watch the program grow. And we always stay in touch. Once you receive a fellowship, you can always call and ask for advice or support, or vice versa. We'll check in with you and stay in touch. We had someone also in Michigan who we purchased her first hop rhizomes for her to start a hop yard. And eventually over the years, she hooked up with a brewery that was veteran owned and got into a hop contract where most people that grow hops, their hops are bought in like 3-year contracts ahead of time by a brewery. So she had a veteran confirm that he would buy her hops for the next several years. And then at that brewery, that veteran bought all of his grain from another veteran that grows grain. And so it was like just a really great network of different veteran producers. And she was able to get in on that because of this initial hop purchase.
So I'm just curious, and this is because I'm always looking at the impact of these kinds of investments. Will you at some point go to these recipients and say, now after 5 years, you knew what their income was in the year they applied?
Yeah.
Like the economic impact of these businesses is huge.
It is, yeah. In 2018, we had a chance to work with a group of ag students at UC Davis, because our office is there in Davis. And for their senior program for the Sustainable Ag Department at UC Davis, they volunteered their time for an entire semester or a couple quarters, and went back and surveyed all of the fellowship recipients from 2011 to 2017.
Wow.
And it was a really comprehensive survey, and they gathered data on sales increase, just job satisfaction, all kinds of things, products grown, product diversity, and a few questions about how that initial equipment purchase help support that growth. So that was really great to read. It was,
Wonderful.
yeah, it was all positive. I think we got about 90 responses to that survey, and of the 90, only 2 people were no longer farming, and it was kind of due to just unfortunate circumstances. So there's also a really high retention rate of people that stay farming.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's a lot of risk in writing a business plan because you actually see maybe how much money you've invested and after a period of time how much money you haven't made, or you see the true reality of your marketing plan or your cash flow projections. And so my question to you is, of course you had to have a business plan to apply for the grant, but I want you to speak to the why. Why is it important to have a plan? And what about that business planning program helped you the most?
A business plan provides clarity. I think we're kind of in the same box where we'd actually rather be out in the farm or doing our sauces, but we want to be growing. Speaking for myself only, I'm a kinetic guy. I want to be outside doing things. And so being inside, doing my admin work, adhering to my regulatory requirements, keeping my financials clean, is not something that is first nature to me. And so the business plan helped me kind of see through the chaff, identify my niche, and that's super duper hard to find, especially if you're new in an area. But also identified where my weaknesses are, which means I have this area that I specifically need to put extra attention to. The business plan helps me define the control measures of how to apply that attention, where I can fail, where I can't fail, and it really provided clarity and purpose to the areas that are outside of just growing my product.
That's great. And then when you think about your business moving forward, I remember you saying that through looking at how much it costs for you to grow and what you can grow, you were able to identify that niche in the business planning process. And I was hoping you'd share a little bit about that.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so one of the cool things, once you go through, I had looked through a business plan on my own and just like, oh God, this thing. But going through the process, so all the work that's embedded in the business plan program is directly applied or is actually a component of your business plan. So everything you're doing is actually building towards this one thing. And in doing this, you're kind of imprinting this stuff in your mind. And so when you're developing your marketing tools for one product as you stand in, say, 2020, here we are in 2020, and we're looking at how to grow our bees and how to produce honey. Well, the next evolution of that, when you start to break this up into phases, the next evolution is, well, now I need to be in a mead producing thing. Then you take your business plan tools and say, well, or marketing tools, because marketing mead is different from marketing your honey. Marketing your tavern is going to be different from marketing your mead, which is different from And so as you set up your business plan through these phases, and you're tinkering with it, it's like, well, you know, my mead's going to be actually better fit at a medieval fair than it is going to be set up on I don't know, First Avenue, downtown Bremerton. So as you're kind of adjusting to your paths that are ahead of you, you're actually hopping back in your business plan and going through those steps again, although not necessarily in that drawn out phase or drawn out method until you actually need your financing. And frankly, the business plan is your cred. Once you start talking about financial institutions, you got to have it, and you got to have a clean one. And that's where one of the things Lisa hasn't mentioned is after you complete your business plan, it gets ratified by local business leaders. And so you have a straight up, clean, credible business plan at the end of the program. One of the fallacy of today's business operating environment is in order to be successful, you need to have scale. You need to output more, you need to produce more, and you need to sell it in order to get better. And that's not necessarily the case. And so one of the ways in which we've adapted is we found that we grow a finite amount of shellfish. We're figuring out how to maximize our retail value, either by positioning within our niche or providing some services like I can get, I don't know, 50 cents an oyster at retail, maybe, all right, 75 cents an oyster at retail price. But if I shuck that in someone's living room at a wedding or a corporate event, now I'm getting $3 an oyster. And it doesn't take a whole lot more overhead. And so now then we take our business plan process again, say, well, now we know that there's 700 people in Thurston County that we need to market at in order to achieve this. And so that's where the business plans really help deliver that for us.
And then you also started growing the Olympia oyster, it was a unique oyster. It's going to take a long time, but I thought that was a very cool story.
Yeah, for you guys that don't know that, the Olympia oyster is kind of groovy in that it has a 5-year life cycle and it's really temperamental. But it's the only oyster that's native to the West Coast, and that's its own niche in itself. And so because it's temperamental, there's a lot of risks involved with it. Like you can lose 2 years crop in 24 hours. And so how to mitigate these risks, how to layer this mitigation in different ways that something's going to happen. We're farmers, even within the food trade, something bad happens all the time. How do you survive getting one leg knocked out from you? And there's actually a thing called, a resiliency business plan, contingency business plan. And it's straight up critical. So how do you survive these setbacks? And if you are weak and shaky in one area and all your eggs in this one basket and you drop the basket, well, there you go. You're 40 to 70% of companies don't survive a catastrophe. And we want to be that 30% that does survive it. And that's where business planning, contingency business planning helps you do that.
Great, thank you very much. And we're going to come back to you at the end. So I'd like to spend a little time having Kenya present. This incredible veteran came to our program. You already had a business, but you wanted to learn the components of a business plan for your sauces. And so I wanted to just have you begin with telling your story.
Okay, well, my story starts with experimenting after learning more about my heritage, and then it kind of dipped into sauces. I had a business before. It was Little Kenya Catering, focused on West African fusion foods, and trying to get my children to adapt to some new things, very new things that they didn't like. I ended up experimenting with different condiments and different sauces. So by that time, we had already figured out after some trial and error and surveys and opinions that we could bottle it and sell it. And so I entered E4E, or Enterprise for Equity, hoping to get a better handle on where I'm going and am I going in the right direction, or do I need to wait for this, or do I need to focus on that? But it really helped. Now you can see that we're up to 3 sauces bottled. And I'm kind of different from y'all. We're not into farming. We're not into agriculture or horticulture or anything like that. But we, due to the care that we put in our recipes for our kids, the first one is just kind of like an all-together thing. It's like, she's gonna eat it. They're gonna eat that. But then I started focusing on, well, what am I putting into my sauces? And so I have developed very heavily based strawberry chili sauce and raspberry juice and beet barbecue sauce. And so that brings us to leaning on a lot of you guys. We need lots of honey. We need lots of raspberries. We need lots of strawberries. We need these things. Not only do we need that, but we need storage. We need fee funds. We're down to bones. We don't even have a business computer. We've been putting everything out of pocket into the sauces so far. But not only does your knowledge grow in Enterprise for Equity, but your ambition has room to grow. And so now I am determined that I want contracts. I want overseas contracts. I want exporting. I want international marketing. And so they hooked through Enterprise for Equity. We had a guest speaker from WSADA that they specialize in import and export for small business owners in, I don't know if it's just Washington. And they've hooked us up with contacts at the Washington WSDA. And so with working with them, now we need to go further. Now we want bigger, we want the contracts, we want everything. How do we get those? How do we get to those trade shows? We take what we can get from our other local producers and farmers, and we luckily have you to facilitate things that we can't readily afford right now. We want to produce on an industrial scale. And so what happens if everything goes good with WSADA and the WSDA and we get to a trade show or two, and then we want to go further, but we can't because we don't have the money for that. So we need you, and we need you to expand.
Thank you, and then there'll be a time at the end for questions. What I'd like to do now is just kind of go through some of the major components of writing a business plan. I'm not sure if you can help me pull that back up. So again, I'm fortunate to work with a nonprofit called Enterprise for Equity. We're in 9 counties in Western Washington. Our primary focus is just walking people with limited incomes and others through the process of writing a business plan, getting your idea formation super, super clear, making sure you have the information you need to make really good decisions, and then actually walking you through that process of questioning every assumption you have in a safe and welcoming environment. So what we know is that everybody learns differently, but when we learn together, it's a little bit easier to kind of discern and dissect those pieces that are really important in a business plan. My name is Lisa Smith, but Liz is our Veteran Outreach Business Development Specialist. What I mainly want to say to you is that whether or not you're in Washington State or in Oregon or in Connecticut, there are organizations like Enterprise for Equity all over the place. We refer to our program as a microenterprise development organizations. There's probably 600 of them around the country. Our focus is really business training, technical assistance, and microloans. Our microloan fund goes up to $25,000. So you may want to apply for a fellowship grant, but you can also apply for a microloan. It's a great way to get seed money and get started, and once you pay back that loan, you're much more attractive to conventional lenders. We're a credit-led program, so most banks look at your credit score and your credit report, and they make a decision about that. What Enterprise for Equity and other programs like ours do is we take into consideration the whole person. 75% of all bankruptcies are from medical debt, medical crises that people couldn't overcome. That could mess up your credit score and remove you from any option from a conventional lender. We take into consideration those issues. We look at whether you have a business plan. Were you successful in that planning process? How planful are you? Are you able to build sales revenue? And so we're a character-based lending program, if that makes sense. And then, as I mentioned, we provide training and technical assistance. Kenya and John and Distan went through a very long process. We have information sessions that are free, and then we have a 2-day business readiness workshop. Even if you've been in business for 7 years, you have to go through this because it is so rich in helping you kind of identify quickly what pieces of your business infrastructure are missing and what parts of your business do you really need to beef up in order to be profitable. So there are some people that go through that 2-day business readiness workshop and say, I'm fine. I don't need to go further. I'm good to go. Or some people realize, oh my word, I've never kept track of any customer for the last 5 years. And like your past customers are your gold mine. Or I don't track my expenses, I just track my income, right? So that's an awareness in the early stages of what it may be missing. If people want to keep going, we have 6 field questions you have to answer before you can even get into our full 10-week training program. And those field questions are like, what permitting requirements will there be for my business? Do I have a sense of who my competition is? How many pizzas have I made? How long does it take to make a pizza? How much does it cost to make one pizza? How many pizzas can I make in a week? Have I tested the pizza on my friends and family? Right? If you don't know those questions early on, going through a business planning program isn't going to help you. So you need to have a lot of hearty awareness about your business before you go into that business planning program. That's our recommendation. One last final thing I was just going to say is that we serve predominantly people with limited incomes. Here's what we know. If you got a lot of money and a lot of education, you can really get access to all kinds of resources and training. But what we found is that people with limited incomes, single parents, people coming out of prison, people who are veterans or have really maybe had a lot of barriers to the economy, these are brilliant people. They're incredibly resilient. They're incredibly creative. They're able to see and overcome so many obstacles. So we want to invest in this community of entrepreneurs and give them top drawer training and technical assistance. And then what happens is they go through our program, they can become profitable. And in Olympia and its region, they're literally changing the face of our local economy. So that's the who we serve. So why entrepreneurship? We know that if you have a job and if you're lucky to make $15 an hour, that's great. Go to work, you come home, you get a job. What we know is that when veterans and others start a business, you become a different person. You become an owner. You are the one who's making the decisions. You are deciding the values that you're operating under for your business. You decide everything. You decide how much you pay yourself or your employees, or how much you price your products. It's a little bit about power. When you're an entrepreneur, you are a boss and you have the power and the leverage and the capacity to make really good decisions. And why a business plan? You know, you've heard all the statistics about businesses that fail in the first 5 years or whatever. Those are the ones who don't have a plan. And so what we know is that when in a safe environment like our classes, entrepreneurs can really look in a sober light of day what their business is, what it actually provides to the community, whether or not there's enough people in the community for it to be a market, whether those people who are your market have enough discretionary income to buy your product. When you have a safe place to ask all those questions, answer those questions, do your homework, do your research, you come out with a better understanding and a better way to make decisions. what we know too is that if you have a business plan but you don't have access to credit or a fellowship grant of this kind, it's super hard to grow or to make any kind of progress. So we build these entrepreneurs' capacity to think through those business or financial decisions so they can apply for a loan or a grant. Does that make sense? Okay. But in a typical business plan, you want to have an executive summary, and that just tells you the big picture, and I'll go into more detail here. You want to have a management and operations plan, and that's just how you're going to get this tomato that's processed in a salsa into a packaged thing, onto a truck, and to the market. What is your management and operations plan? If you can't really figure that piece out, it's super hard to reduce your costs or to leverage different advantages. So that's a really important part of a business plan. Your marketing plan is extraordinarily important. If you don't have a market, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And so really understanding your market and how to reach that market is critical. And then finally, a financial plan. We know that it's almost impossible to start a business without any money, but people do it all the time. But what we want you to be able to do is really understand why, the why of tracking your financial inflow and your outgo. Because when you do that, you can do your taxes, you understand your profitability, where your leverage is, but that financial piece is really important. So honestly, there are some people, some lenders who just look at the executive summary and then they may go look at your financial statements. Your executive summary is really important. And that's the information from which you will draw information for the grant. So it's the 30,000 foot level. What's the big picture? What is this business and why is it important? Why is it important to you? What is it about your business that's attractive to your market? You want to be super clear about not just the name of the business, but what it does and kind of dissect all the pieces of it. So if it's a business like a shellfish company, you would say where it's located, how much shellfish it produces, what is the land base, all of those kind of big picture ideas to give the reader a sense that you know what the heck you're talking about. And you want to be very clear on all the products and services. So Kenya would talk about her 3 sauces, but she wouldn't stop there. In that executive summary, she would really describe the delicious ingredients of those and why doing these sauces here and now is the best possible product she could provide. And then you want to talk about why or how this product fits into the broader industry. So everything is connected to everybody. Everything is connected to everything. And everything about business is relationships. So you're going to want to be able to say the big picture in your executive summary. There are many kinds of ownership structures. There's sole proprietors, there's LLCs, there's S-corps, there's cooperatives, there's collectives. There's a lot of different ways of legally structuring your business so that you are doing the right thing to public entities where you pay tax and where you're regulated, but it's also to help you figure out what kind of leverage you want as a business owner. So as an example, as a sole proprietor, you own that company, you make all your decisions, you're the owner. You're also liable and responsible for everything you do. So there's increase in power and leverage and also increase in risk. If you have an LLC, and these are just examples, very broad examples, you have an LLC, that body or that entity or that board, they have a lot of leverage and authority, and you just do your own work, but you have very low risk. The LLC is taking on that risk. Does that make sense? So every decision about your legal structure has to do with how much leverage and responsibility you want. Does that make sense? Now you can mitigate your risk as a sole proprietor by having insurance, right? So there are a lot of different ways of that, and we go into just excruciating detail about that. And then we also want to have you all really build your capacity in understanding what the regulatory environment is. So businesses that really do their best to abide by all the legal, environmental, and social requirements for their business, they often do the best. They're above board. They're the ones that are able to manage those regulatory pitfalls. What's hard about that is that it often costs money. If you're a contractor, you want to get bonded and licensed. It costs money. So having a legal business is just a really good thing. And then we help you walk through that process. I mentioned a little bit about the ownership and management. We have an incredible partner in this state called the Northwest Cooperative Development Center. They help farmers come together and grow together as a worker-owned cooperative, where they buy together, they market together, they all are co-owners, and there's some equity in there. So just know there's a lot of different legal and ownership structures that you can take advantage of. And then also, if you have employees, or even if you don't, let's say you have two people, you and your husband, you want to really be clear about the roles and the responsibilities of the people in your business so that the reader knows that you understand how each person works and what the role of each person. Because when you show that lender or a reviewer that you know who's doing what, they see, oh yeah, she's minimizing confusion because the roles and responsibilities are outlined and defined. And then staffing schedule, there's all kinds of different other parts of this. When we talk about having a market, we don't just want you to say, yeah, I'm going to market my product to all veterans, or my product is perfect for all women, right? There's no degree of specificity there. So you want to make sure that when you identify what your market is, you test it. You test those sauces on where you think your market is. And you test and you test and you test. And pretty soon you'll say, okay, all women, but then all women 35 to 50 who live in the Pacific Southwest, who make $50,000 to $80,000, who go and buy at the farmer's market 6 to 8 times a year, right? And they read Women magazine or Cosmopolitan. The more details that you can refine and refine and refine around your market, the more effective you're going to be at reaching that market. So we help these entrepreneurs dissect and get clearer and clearer and clearer so that it's easier to reach them, right? Any reviewer wants to know not just what your product is and how wonderful it is, but how does that fit into the broader landscape of products. So you have ketchup and mustard and soy sauce and all of those other products. You want to define the whole competitive landscape, and more importantly, what is your products or your services role or competitive advantage or your position in that landscape. Does that make sense? Okay. We have these entrepreneurs spend an excruciating amount of time on what their ideal customer is, because the market is out there, but the customer is who's going to be buying your product, and we want you to know intimately who that is and to test and test and test. So we have you walk through the process of actually drafting a survey, and then we don't force you, but we require you to use that survey on your potential customers. What's the maximum you'll pay for my salsa? So you want to know more about that customer than anything else. Last thing I'll just say about pricing. We work with a lot of people who are phenomenal at their craft, whether it's a landscaper or a doula or a midwife or audio installer in cars. We work with everybody from piano tuners to dog trainers, web design artists, right? They're excellent at their craft. They're good at their craft. But often, their sense of value or their sense of understanding of the value of that product or service is way lower than the actual value. So we have to wrestle often with the entrepreneurs who go through our program. Literally wrestle with them. I mean, not physically, but to help them really get how valuable and how good their product is, so their pricing is at the market, what the market will bear. If they price their product down below, there are studies after studies after studies that show that people will buy this higher priced product over and over and over and over because the perception is it's more valuable, it's a better product. And so we help people make sure their pricing is right where it needs to be, and it's a really critical piece. And then distribution, there's so many other pieces of it, but distribution is how you're going to get that product from your warehouse or your manufacturing facility to the market. And that is a whole nother huge process, but we walk you through that. The financials for some people are great because they love to talk about money and profit, but for many people, the financial part of running a business is the most frightening. And I would say not always, but a lot of it is about our relationship with money. Maybe we didn't grow up with a really good relationship with money. Maybe we didn't have a lot of resources, so we don't want to see on paper how bad the financial picture really looks. So we don't want to do anything about it. We just want to kind of keep it in the down low or underneath. What we love to do is talk about money, and we want to help our entrepreneurs feel confident and comfortable and easy about money, because funding and financing is the kind of the lifeblood of any business. And if you have a good relationship with your value that you create, the value of your product or service, the value of that product or service in the market, then being able to be transparent and clear and vulnerable around money at first is really important. So we spend a lot of time on cash flow. And basically, if you think about your financials, you're like your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, that's a point in time, that's the reality right there that reflects where you've been. Cash flow talks about where you're going. And so I don't have a cash flow sheet here, but if you can imagine a spreadsheet that has, at the top your sales, right? And then at the bottom all your expenses. And let's say you have sauces. You can identify each product and how many you want to sell, let's say 30 a month at first. Each one of those sales you can articulate in the actual cash flow plan the cost of that one bottle. And then you can manipulate on this sheet, let's say I want to do 60. Well, those numbers of the cost of that 60 goes up. So your expenses and your income are calculated automatically at the bottom of that cash flow sheet. We spend 8 hours on that. Why? Because when you know what's coming up, when you know you have a huge bill to be paid in April, and you know that your sales aren't going to really happen till May, you see it and you can call your supplier and say, look, can I get you that payment in May? You're calling in January. You're not calling in May or April. You see what your expenses are and where your revenue is going to come in. And what does that give you? Confidence. And it gives you a capacity to make really good decisions. Sources and uses, it just talks about what products you use to make your ingredients, you make your product, and then what do you use it for? We have you go into a lot of detail about that. Articulating your equipment and supplies. So often we don't even think about like rent or telephone, but all of those expenses, your fixed costs are those expenses that are the same every month all the way, and your variable costs are the costs that go up and down based upon the number of products you sell. So we just help you keep track of that. And then you have documentation. We have, in your business plan, you have to have a lot of documents that help buttress the components of your business plan. You may think as a business, before you have a business plan, that what you need is like a marketing plan. You need a new logo, or you need letterhead. But what having a business plan helps you do is see all the parts of your business, and you can see where is the problem. I want to sell more product, but I don't have a market, or I want to sell this product, but I can't get the supplies. The business plan helps you isolate where the critical gaps are in your business so that you can figure out what you want to invest in. We want you all to do scenario planning. If I create a new sauce that is actually using kale, for example, because there's a new emerging market on kale, how profitable will I be? So you can do that scenario planning on paper before you actually get it done in your business. What we want you to be able to do is not just identify the cooler or the tractor or the hives, but why that hive or why that tractor will make a difference in your production. Why that production increase will actually matter when it comes to profitability or your ability to reach a new market. So, you could use it, likely a lot of them. Would you say the largest percentage of the grants are for equipment?
Yes.
Yeah, so equipment and supplies, inventory, that's really just making a lot of your products so when, let's say in the Christmas season, you are ready to sell them. You're growing your inventory. Can you use it for training? Let's say you want to get certified as a chef.
Yeah, it's less common, but yes.
So training, or if you're in contracting or you need a bond or licensing, you may want to go to different conferences. For our loan fund, you can use it for any of these can be used. Or you want to do branding or marketing. Those are definitely what we would be able to use a microloan for, or professional fees. There's just a small list, but you want to think about not just that sexy equipment that would be great to have. You want to be able to describe why that equipment would be valuable and why having that equipment would translate into value or profitability. We want you to have the highest leverage or the highest impact, the highest value for that $5,000 investment. And so we talk a lot about, in our program, we require every business to have a triple bottom line. We want you to be profitable, that's great, but we also want to make sure that every one of our graduates who go through our program actually has stewardship of the planet as a part of their business strategy. So you're going to treat your bees well, you're going to treat the planet well. What is your maybe your non-toxic cleaning supplies, or you're organic, or you're paying attention to your waste stream, or you're not using raw materials in your manufacturing. We want to know the environmental impact of your business. And then the third return is, what is the social impact? None of you operate your business in a vacuum. It has an impact on the social fabric of the community. Well, we want to know how, why, in what way, for whom, when. So the return on investment is not just profitability, it's the overall value your business brings to the community, the environment, and to the economy. Does that make sense? Some of us talk about a people, profit, planet. Others do economy, equality, and environment. Economy, well, yeah. So the 3 E's. You really do, it's an opportunity to both have a short-term and a long-term view of your business. We want to make sure that you have a plan so the injection of revenue or the injection of your life energy, that's your time, or the time your family or your partners spend, has the highest and best value, the highest and best use. And so you having a business plan will help you get there. One of the benefits of going through our program, we have our program is 10 weeks, so you do the 2-day business readiness, then you have to do your field research, making sure you've made enough pizza, you know how much it costs. Then all of the business planning program, 10 weeks, 5 hours a week, is about really teasing out the details of all these components. Every bit of your homework is the business plan. So by the time you're done, you're really finishing up things and submitting the plan. Then our trainers review the plan with you. They go over the gaps that they see. They help you identify the pieces that you're missing or that you need to improve. You revise that plan, you resubmit it to Enterprise for Equity. Then we have 18 external reviewers. These are bankers, business owners, professors, lawyers, who give that kind of community lens and perspective on your business plan. And then you can read that review and go contact them in the future. So you have a specific business lens, and then you have an outside community lens. I mentioned the triple bottom line. For many veterans, it's a no-brainer. You already have a strong stewardship with the land. You understand the social fabric that your business is operating in. We just know it's a critical piece of every business, and the planet can't wait for us to figure it out. So if you are ready to apply. Even if you're not, I would encourage you to apply. The exercise is really important, but it may be that you want to go through a program like Enterprise for Equity or SNAP in Spokane or RCDR in Yakima or Business Impact Northwest in Seattle. There are programs out there that you can spend a year writing your business plan with and apply next year and be ready for it. So I wanted to just make sure that you know about these resources because like the small business development centers, I know in the Washington State, they're free and they'll sit with you. They'll have you do homework. You do your homework, you come back, but they'll walk you through this process one-on-one. They really serve kind of a larger businesses that are larger, but just know that there are resources available to you. There's online business planning courses. There's the Small Business Administration is an incredibly important partner, and they have a website with cash flow projection sheets you can just download and work on. So they're an amazing partner. Also, AEO is our trade association. It's called the Association of Enterprise Opportunity, and you can see members like ours all over the country who do the training, technical assistance, and microloans. Here's a map of the MDOs around the state. So if you're in a rural community, feel free to call us and we can help refer you to the right partner. And again, just to reiterate, the information sessions happen all the time. They're free. You can go to our website and check it out. The 2-day business readiness workshop, I think we have our this is full this weekend, but we have them all throughout the year. And then we do 3 to 5, sometimes 6 business planning programs throughout the year. I do want to say that if you graduate our program, you can apply for a microloan from us. Neither of these folks have applied, but we have a 98% repayment rate on our microloan fund. And so you can get loans up to $25,000. You can get $1,000 after graduating our program. You have to apply for it, but you don't need collateral for that. Pay it back and get a larger loan. You can get 2 $25,000 loans. But at that point, we want to send you we have 8 lending institutions who will lend to our borrowers like that. I mean, you have to go through the process, but because the graduates of our program have their business house in order. They know how to pay back a loan. They know the structure and value of their business. So just know it's going to help you all the way around. And that's it. Any advice you would give to prospective applicants?
One of the other things is the business plan thing is, as small scale growers, we have finite resources, period. Everybody has finite resources, be it cash, be it space, be it kitchen, like a certified kitchen. And so the ability to be purposeful through your investments. Now we get to what Lisa's talking about. Regarding cash flow. The cash flow I mean, you get this sense of money's coming in, money's going out. I'm going to draw on this thing right here. But the cash flow really shows you your rhythm of money. And so when you have, let's say, let's go expenses here, expenses in dollars, and let's say time in months. So here's our fixed costs. Then we have seed purchases, our labor purchases at harvest, our crop dies, and then we're back to our fixed costs again. So this is money going out the door. Now, when we take our harvest crop, so here we're going to go, you can go harvest. You can call it inventory or revenue. It doesn't matter. And same thing, we're going to put time here. Starting in January here, ending in December, your growth cycle is going to look like this. And these months are unsupported with cash and inventory when you have all these fixed costs. You could do high tunnels. You know, this is where your business plan is going to help you. And so maybe we could do some high tunnels, and we can take this curve and, there we go, and kind of feather it out a little bit. You know, we can start our growth cycle earlier. We can drag it out a little bit later, protection from frost. But we still don't have complete coverage unless we're doing a scale model where we're dragging this. I didn't explain this well. So this curve, when your crops grow, you have your lead fast-growing crops that you can harvest. You have your main body of harvest, and then you have that back end of slower-growing organisms. That's why this is a bell curve, parabola, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much all population systems have this. I mean, it's just unique to growing things. So here's our high tunnels. We're able to add some more revenue. We're covering maybe from here to here, but we're still not covering it, so you do a value added. So now we think, well, how can we do a value added? And now we can cover our year. And so this is how we take our cash flow rhythm of where our expenses are pulsing and how we start to cover this stuff with identifying specific needs of the business in order to keep my family insured and keep money in the bank and keep my mortgage paid.
Awesome. And managing risk and all of those other things. So thank you, John. And then Kenya, do you have anything else you wanted to share just about your business or?
As it pertains to the grant?
The grant
Oh, yeah. That'd be really helpful. We're one of those people. We got the kids. We got all sorts of expenses. We'll be doing everything out of pocket. But we know our limitations, and we know where we need to grow, and we know how we need to grow. And we've spelled that out on paper very thoroughly. Yeah. It's going to be hard to get it down to 5 pages or 3 pages. But knowing that we need things like more powerful juicers or better quality juicers or bottles and lids and heat sealers and heat guns and packaging is that is our main thing that would really help us with that grant. Awesome. Hell, a computer to keep track of all this stuff. We're on phones. We're in the Stone Age, y'all. Help us out.
Well, and you'd be eligible for a $1,000 microloan without collateral, so you should apply for that.
So we're all humans. We all got our foibles. We got our stresses in life. Through the path that we've walked, maybe some of us are dealing with stuff, things that we've seen are still sitting in our heads with the military. That's another layer of stress that we need to deal with. Well, frankly, everybody has it. Everyone's coming across stress. Veterans have a unique stress that they're dealing with. Financial stress is something that we don't need to add on top of that. Dealing with regulatory stress is not a stress that we need to add on top of that. So the business plan helps you identify, again, where these weak points are, where these missteps are that can cause you step, and helps you develop a plan to mitigate it. Another element of the business plan that is huge is Now you can articulate to your family, hey, here's where we're going, here's why it's important to do the things that we have to do. I don't know how long you guys have been involved in farming, but in my story, my farming or even the food prep, you know, I do a lot of work in that. I got to tell my wife, hey, you got the kids for the next 17 hours because I got to do this for the next 4 days straight. And she needs to understand that what she is doing, the sacrifices that she's making in her schedule, and the kids too, frankly, are important because we're trying to get to this place right here. And so the business plan helps define it in our own heads so we can articulate it to others if the others are not readers of business plans.
That's really well put. And I'll say too, in just talking with a number of our graduates, if we don't have a plan, if we don't understand what our role is, our worry is right here. How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? It's like right here. When you have a perspective and a business plan, it helps you really build your confidence and know you don't have to worry as much, and really reduce stress. I think the last thing I wanted to say is that thanks to the Department of Veterans Affairs and for the support and connections that they have enabled us to be able to provide, we are becoming a conduit for veterans who may want to go through our program, but then if they're not connected with their benefits, can then be a warm handoff to the VA. And we would not be here in this room, obviously, without Jason Alves with the VA, but also with an incredibly increased awareness of all that you have done to help our nation be where it is, but also what capacity you all have to help our communities here as farmers and shellfish farmers and food processors. You're not ending your service, you're translating it in a different way. And for me, that's a true gift. So thank you very much.